back, everybody. My name is Dr. Aaron Benitez. I am an RDHAP. And so for today, episode 3, we will be discussing Insurance 101 for RDHAPs. Now, before I get started, I just wanted to showcase, I'm going to try to do this for the other episodes. This is one of our wonderful, amazing RDHAPs that are practicing out there. And so Miss Stephanie De Leon has her own brick and mortar. And she also sees patients in assisted living, nursing homes, homebound. So wish we had a lot more Stephanies out there. So thank you. Okay, so let's talk about insurance. Okay, so with insurances. All right, you ready for this? So before you started dentistry, what is it that you needed to know? You need to know the teeth numbers. You need to know the medical terminology. It's the same thing. Before you start billing, before you become a subscriber, before you start taking insurances, you need to know the terminology. You need to know what is it that they're talking about. Because when you're calling the insurance companies, you want to know what they're saying because they're going to talk in these terms. Okay. So the contracts with insurance companies are essentially 3 parties. Okay. The insurance company, otherwise known as the carrier, the group, which is essentially the purchaser. That's like the employer. Okay. And then the patient, the individual, the employee is the subscriber. So carrier, purchaser, subscriber. You got to know these terms. So the parties that are involved when a claim is filed is the patient, right? So that would be the subscriber, the dentist or RDHAP, preferably. That is the provider. And then the dental benefits carrier, which is the group, right? The group or program sponsor. And so you're submitting the claim to the carrier, which is the insurance company. So make sure you understand those terms. There's other terms that we're going to discuss, but I always try to explain them, okay? So before we continue, let me give an example. Now, we're mainly going to talk about PPOs and HMOs, okay? In a different video, we'll talk everything that you need to know about Medi-Cal, how to bill Medi-Cal. Even though right now, in this video, we'll probably discuss briefly about Medi-Cal. But Home Depot is an example that I like to give, where when you get hired, let's say you get hired as a new employee, okay, they're going to offer you benefits. So they will usually give you the benefit plan, a basic benefit plan. And so you as a new employee of Home Depot, you can add more things. You can add more services like dog insurance, and you can add dependents. You can give your spouse and your kids, dental, medical insurance, right? At a fee. So usually the basic plan that you will get as a new employee is just medical and dental for yourself. Okay, for the most part. So now think about managers. They want to recruit the best of the best with managers, and there's usually 1 or 2 managers per, Home Depot, right? Instead of a new employee, which would be like 300 that work at a specific Home Depot. Managers, it would be just 1 or 2. So they want to recruit people that are highly experienced. They want the best of the best. So they're going to offer them beyond a basic plan. So they're going to, a premium package. So maybe the premium package is you can get medical and dental, but also and it's all paid for you and for your spouse and your kids, let's just say. Or it could be something like the basic plan, but with higher maximum amounts. So let's say they get Delta Dental PPO as a basic plan with $1,000 maximum per year. Managers will get the premium package, which would be $1,500 or $2,000. Okay. A maximum benefit for Delta Dental. That's an example. What about the CEO? Well, CEOs, right, at that executive level, they still get benefits, even though they might be millionaires or maybe not. They get, medical benefit packages, and so they may have Delta Dental that, it's 5,000 or 10,000 maximum coverage a year. So I've seen those before. Those are amazing. Unfortunately, the offices that I've been to that had that, guess what? Those CEOs, they had crowns everywhere because those DDSs just maxed everything out. Ugh. Anyways, so dental offices need to verify, if a patient has insurance, right? Dental coverage. So what you're doing is you're verifying the group number. Okay, because the group number from the basic plan of the new employees is going to be a different number than the premium package for the managers at Home Depot. They'll have a different group number. Okay. So, do you understand how now the group numbers are different, and the group numbers signify what kind of insurance the patient has? Okay. So, dental benefit programs. Now, essentially, you have two different types plus Medi-Cal. Okay. Now, reimbursement depends on the dental plan design, set and agreed upon by the purchaser and the insurance company. So, Home Depot and the insurance company, are the ones that designed and set everything together. Notice how doesn't really involve the patient. The patient can just add on things, okay? Which is fine. That's the system we have, okay? Now, the purchaser may offer the subscriber, okay? So let me say it differently. The employer may offer our patient or the new employee, several options they can choose from at different coverage percentages. So that's what I was saying, that you can add on things. So maybe the basic plan involved Delta Dental, PPO at $1,000 maximum, but they also have the option of getting an HMO, okay, or something like that, AFLAC, all that stuff. They may need to add money, they need to contribute monthly more money to increase that coverage. So this is where the whole different group numbers are used to signify the different plans, okay? Now, we have essentially two basic models of benefit programs plus Medi-Cal, okay? Now, the first one is indemnity. Think of indemnity as you're being compensated for the services rendered, okay? That's the PPO. But when you call, they're not going to refer to it as a PPO. They're going to refer to it as indemnity, okay? That's why you got to know this. Um, Capitation. It's a fixed monthly payment that the provider will receive, okay? That's an HMO example. Now, there's different variations for each one of those. That's why we usually don't call them. Indemnity is the same as PPO. Capitation is exactly the same as HMO, because they're different variations, and so it can get complicated. And insurance companies want to be able to, you know, um, be able to market to different people for different subscribers, basically, and have different group numbers. Okay, variety. Okay, let's start with indemnity. Now, indemnity, a lot of times, is frequently referred to as fee for service. Okay, this is the PPO. Okay, now provides payment on a service by service basis. So you do an SRP on one quadrant, you bill for it, you get paid for SRP on that quadrant. That's the services that you did. Okay, service for service. Payment may be made to the enrollee or by assignment to the dental provider. Okay, so what happens is the patient can send the claim to the insurance company because they pay the provider. right? A lot of offices, this is what they call fee for service, which is not 100% the way, fee for service is. So you go into a dental office, you get a tooth pulled, okay? They charge you, and the insurance company will not, I'm sorry, the dental office will not charge the insurance company. They tell you as a patient to bill the insurance company and you're going to get paid. So that dental office considers themselves cash only, and some of them call themselves fee for service. Now, I don't know where the service is coming from, because the only thing that they did is pull the tooth and charged you money. Now, remember, we work in the service industry, okay? And so my recommendation is, if that's what you want to do, great with as an RDHAP. But my recommendation is provide the full spectrum of services, okay? If you're not going to um, bill the insurance companies, okay, and you want the patient to submit the claim, help them do the claim, because they don't know what forms to use. They don't know the codes that you're going to learn today. They don't know any of this stuff. So if I'm a patient and I go get my teeth cleaned by an RDHAP and they're telling me you need to bill the insurance company, I'm going to go, see you later. I'm not coming back. And then I come back and give you a bad review. That's my recommendation. Um, Now, there's several types of indemnity. Okay, that's why we don't call it PPOs. There's different types of fee for service programs. Reimbursement is based on the fee applied to each dental services rendered or received. So, you have perio maintenance at a certain price, pro fees, 1110s at a certain price, SRPs, 4341s at a different price. Okay, depending on what you did, okay, which is attached to a certain code. All right. Now, when insurance companies make a payment, it will be alongside an EOB, which is an explanation of benefits. And so, as a provider, when I send my claim and then I get the money back, whether it's electronic or by check, I'm going to receive a page that says explanation of benefits, and it will say everything that has been paid. Okay. And what hasn't been paid. And it will show me any codes of why they weren't paid. So, all of this information and more, you really you should think about, if the patient is going to receive the check, they're also going to receive the EOB. So now you're just asking for trouble. I mean, think about that. Unless you sit with a patient, okay, and go over this, it's a lot of information. So I suggest that you help them do this. And as you're doing this, you can even explain this may be denied for this reason or whatever, or just become a preferred provider. Okay. And which we'll go over right now. Now, these fee for service programs, okay, we're still talking about indemnity. The insurance company compensates the patient at a set percentage of the provider's office fee schedule. The provider sets the fee schedule, the insurance company sets the percentage. So let's say I am a provider and I'm charging $100. Let's just give it a number, $100 for a pro fee. Okay. Now, that's what I charged my patient. The insurance company can say, well, because you're an out of network provider, we're only going to pay 50%, but not at $100, at $80. So do you see what a difference that is? So that would be what, $40? So all of these things you need to make sure you take in consideration. Now, the UCR, the usual, customary, and reasonable fee, it's the most commonly charged for a particular service, taking into account the geographic area or the specialty. This reasonable, quote unquote, is adjustable by the insurance company. So, what this is something that RDHAPs have no control over. We don't even have a say in the matter. This is something that the American Dental Association, the ADA, has their members, okay, their dentists, they do a poll every year or every 2 years, I believe it is. And so they ask them, what is it that you are charging for all of these procedures in your area? And so they create this UCR. So let's say that in Beverly Hills, they charge this, and Lennox, they charge this. L- Lingwood, they charge that, because those dentists pretty much said, what is it that they're being charged? Now, what they're charging their patients. Now, here's the thing about that. Okay, you can live in a small community, as let's say as a dentist, and you know all the dentists, and you get together and you're like, okay, guys and ladies, let's get together, fellow DDSs, and let's say that we charge $500 for a pro fee. Let's stick it to them. So the insurance companies have learned that this actually happens. And so they will say, no, that's not what you should be charging. It needs to be reasonable. Okay. So the insurance companies will pay what they think the UCR should be, not what you think. So going back to a patient that I charged, let's just say, okay, and I charged them, what was it that I said? $100. Okay. But it's an out of network provider. So the insurance company will only pay 50% for an out of network provider at the UCR reasonable fee of $80. So they say 80, I say 100, regardless of that, because I am an out of network provider, they're going to only pay 50%. So my $100 that I charged the patient now became $40 that the patient is receiving from the insurance company. Do you think, as a patient, you're going to be happy with that? You're not going to be happy. Okay. So that's something that you want to take in consideration. That's a whole other, thing with marketing. That's like internal marketing. Okay. So moving on, PPOs. Remember, indemnity is associated with PPOs. PPOs and EPOs are pretty much the same. One is just a lot more exclusive than the other. Okay. With PPOs, if a patient is paying the monthly payment through their employer or whatever, um, to have a PPO insurance, like let's say Delta Dental of California, PPO, um, I can go as a patient to any a Delta Dental of California provider. Okay. The EPO, the exclusive provider organization, and then these are not as common anymore. The patients cannot go anywhere else other than one specific provider, okay? Or maybe a small little group, not as an HMO. This is still an EPO, okay? Those are pretty rare, but they do exist. That's why I like to mention them. So, coming back to the whole PPO, with a PPO, if I'm the provider and I sign up, okay, I am signing up, let's say with California, Delta Dental of California, PPO, I agree to charge a certain amount. Let's say I say $80 for Profi, and and I usually charge 100. I have to accept $80. I can't charge the difference because that's the agreement. Okay. And so that is what a PPO is. Now, they do refer and they do pay pretty well for RDHAPs. Now, usually for, RDHs and RDHAPs that I've worked with other DDSs that are in PPOs, isn't it something that we always hear? Oh, those PPOs, they never pay, they don't pay enough money. I'd rather just pay cash. Don't think like a dentist, okay? Because that's the dentist mentality. They usually will pay different to RDHAPs. Medi-Cal will pay even better, okay, to RDHAPs. You just have to know the system, okay? Um, so I would encourage you to see the differences between being a preferred provider and being an out-of-network provider, otherwise known as a network and an out-of-network provider. That way you see what's better for you and your clientele, your patients, because there's some patients that don't want to pay extra and there's others that don't care. Okay? So moving on. So we're still with indemnity, fee for service, but let's focus a little bit on out of network because this is usually the part that most RDHAPs um, tend to experience. And it can get a little confusing, but we're going to simplify this, okay? So now let's just say, just as a review, the DDS, they determine the fee schedule with help from the ADA in considering geographics. Okay, they submit annually to the ADA which fees will be charged for the procedures by the CDT codes, which I'll show you the codes. Insurance companies can only pay a percentage, may only pay a percentage of certain services. Now, this depends on the type of service. Usually, it includes a yearly maximum and sometimes even a deductible. Okay. So notice how, as RDHAPs, we're like not even in the table. Okay. We're not even sitting at the table when these decisions are made, which is fine. Okay. It's fine. It is what it is. But this is the part that you really need to understand. Okay. Let's say you get somebody from Home Depot, okay, and their Delta Dental PPO has a $1,000 year maximum, okay. They happen to have a $50 deductible beyond preventative. What's preventative? Prophies, fluoride, things like that, right? Sealants. Now, beyond preventative. Okay, so if a deductible, so let's say they're getting a tooth pulled, it's extra $50 to whatever it is that they're doing. Okay, once a year. They don't have to pay it for every tooth that's getting pulled. Now, 100 the benefit, 100% diagnostic and preventative. So this Delta Dental California happens to pay 100% of the diagnostic, the exam, right, and X-rays, and also the preventative prophy, sealants, stuff like that, fluoride. They will pay 80% of the UCR or what they think is reasonable when it comes to restorations, okay, like fillings. They will pay 50% of prosto and implants sometimes, okay? So, and then the cleaning and exam is every 6 months, but it could also be twice a year, okay? So this is an example of a benefit plan, okay? Now that you know that, this Home Depot employee has Delta Dental of California PPO, this is what they have. So now we know what to work with, okay? Now, we mentioned this already, but I left it up here just so you could have it as a reference. So let me give you an example at a dental office, okay? Patient needs a crown, and the dental office charges $600. Okay, that's not a lot of money, but $600. So in the patient's record, we realize that the insurance company has stated that they will only pay 50% of major procedures. Remember, that's what I was just showing you in the last slide. Some of them will pay 80% of restorative, some will pay 50% of major. Okay, that's usually the case. So now the patient thinks, and this is where you need to make sure that you're clear about all of this. Patient thinks that the crown will cost them $300 because 50% of 600 is 300. Okay, can't assume these things. The insurance company says that a reasonable fee for a crown in this area is not $600, it's $500. So then 50% of 500 is $250. Holy guacamole. Okay. So do you see why you need to know what the UCR, the reasonable fee, even as an RDHAP? Okay. Now, this person happened to have a deductible, okay, for major procedures. Okay. So if a deductible, and I think we had said $50, is also considered, then the insurance company will only pay $200. Okay. What the office was charging $600 for the crown, and the patient thought that they were going to only have to pay 300, it's 200 towards the $600 crown. Do you see that? So they're paying a lot more. Okay. The patient will end up paying $400. And when they thought it was 300. Now, $100 may not be a lot for some people, but for some people, it is a lot. And even if it's $1, okay, you need to make sure you explain this and, it's understood and they sign. Okay. So, as a review, PPO, Preferred Provider Organization, okay, usually associated as an indemnity, a plan that establishes a list of dentists, okay. It can also be RDHAPs who have a contract with the insurance company. Now, the dentist agrees to a fixed fee schedule set by the insurance company, and also RDHAPs can do this if they're in network, right? In return, the insurance company places the dentist or RDHAP on a preferred list, which can boost the provider's patient base. Now, if I'm a brand new brick and mortar, you better believe I want to be on this list. I want everybody to know, besides my name tag, I want everybody to know that I accept this insurance. Okay? So, very important. Now, move on. Okay? Don't think about indemnity. Forget PPOs. Let's talk about HMOs. Capitation. Now, this is a little bit different. Okay? And I will tell you, it's important for you to know, even though that I know of, there are no HMOs that will compensate RDHAPs. If there is, please put it in the comments, mention it, okay? Because I don't know of any, okay? Real HMOs. So, capitation, it's a benefit system in which a dentist or dentist contract with the program sponsor or administrator to provide all or most of their dental services covered under the program in return for a fixed monthly payment, okay, per covered person. Now, they may also be called Dental Health Maintenance Organization, DHMO, okay, HMO or DHMO, meaning the dental version, okay. Side note, this was passed in the 70s under Richard Nixon, and the first HMO ever in the United States was Kaiser. Just a little side note. Jeopardy. Now, let me give you a quick example. Okay. Remember that I know of no RDHAPs can participate in this. And the reason is because this is a federal law that was passed in the 70s. And, with us, RDHAPs, remember, it's a state classification. It's not a federal classification. That's why there are no HMOs that we're able to participate in. Okay, participate in this format. The dentist gets somewhere between $3 to $10 a month for every single patient, okay, referred to them by the DHMO, regardless of whether they see the patient or not. So they're assigned to that office, to that doctor. Okay. So let's say you have a list and you're assigned 1,000 patients. Every month, the dentist is going to get, or the office is going to get $3 to $10 per patient for 1,000 patients. Now think about that. Oof. You haven't even seen the patient. You haven't even touched the patient. And it's $3 to $10 per patient. So if you have 1,000 patients and you're getting $3, that's $3,000 a month that you're getting automatically. Okay, if it was $10, which is a pretty high number, right? You get $10,000 a month. Now they won't allow a bunch of different dentists in the zip code. It's usually one or two, okay, per zip code, depending on how many patients live in the area, how many patients that have that insurance. So what is it that happens? A lot of the big DSOs, Western Dental, PDS, Aspen, all of these big insurance corporations, they have people working full time, enrolling their new doctors, their new offices to saturate the market. And this is where they are able to pay for the water, the electricity, without even the first patient coming in. I mean, hey, why not, right? This is how they pay their, utilities. Um, so it's a great concept, okay? But there's a lot of little things that you need to know about this. So HMOs, okay, the insurance company takes complete responsibility of paying the bill. Okay. The patient must only use the dentist in the HMO plan. So you can't just go anywhere. No coverage exists anywhere else. So you are assigned one doctor and that's it. Now, for emergencies, because it happens, there are exceptions, but they make you go through these, hoops and stuff, jumping through hoops to be able, to go somewhere else. Now, patients are assigned a dentist and have a very difficult time switching. You have to wait till 1 year, basically. There's an open enrollment time. Usually, open enrollment somewhere in the fall. That's the only time you're able to switch. Otherwise, you are stuck. So, um, you know, if you get a great doctor, great. If you don't, then oh well. The dentist gets paid regardless per patient assigned to them, not for the work that's actually done. So let's say the patient comes in and they need x-rays, exam, a prophy, maybe one filling. Okay, all of that is already paid for by the $3 or $10, whatever it is per month that the HMO has been paying. So the dentist cannot charge them. Okay, the payment is sent directly to the dentist every month. There is no reimbursement for RDHAPs. Okay, now quick little pros and cons with this. It's great because let's just come back to Home Depot, not every new Home Depot employee can afford Delta Dental of California at $100 a month, right? Plus their kids and their spouse. That's a lot of money. So they decide to go with the cheaper plan, cheaper in the sense of money, okay? And so now they're only paying, I don't know, it's free for them, but it's $25 for everybody else. So that's a big, big difference, but it's in HMO plans. Now, us as dental people in the dental world, we already know the differences between HMOs and PPOs. So the cons are, that not every provider is, is kosher, for lack of better words, that not every provider will be truthful with certain things. And so that's where the upselling comes in. And not to say that, it's not necessary. I'm not saying any of that. There's a lot of wonderful, wonderful HMO doctors out there, and, they work with what they have. And so if the HMO says that they're only covering um, uh, stainless steel crowns for posterior molars, permanent crowns that are stainless steel. I mean, come on, that's you have to quote unquote upsell it. You have to create something better. And so every patient is unique. And so, but unfortunately, HMOs do have a bad reputation in the dental field. So I encourage you as a provider, as an RDHAP provider, even though there is no reimbursement for RDHAPs, don't contribute to, giving a bad name to these type of insurances, because some people, this is what they have to use. And so we're there to educate and provide services, of course. So some insurance terminology that I think you need to really make sure that you understand, okay, is this. I won't go into each one, but you can take a screenshot, take a picture of this. Okay. These are things that you do need to know. Okay. Um, Now, let's say I have a patient, okay, and they bring me their card, okay, but I know them, they're my cousin or something. You need to get all their information, because what about the group number? All these things. What about the coverages, the benefits? So you need to get a copy of their insurance info, okay, including the billing address for the insurance, because there are Delta Den of California, Delta Den of Georgia, Delta Den of North Carolina. There's Minnesota. There's all these different versions of insurances, and you're going to be billing the wrong one? No, you're just wasting your time. Okay. Now, you can also phone the insurance company to verify benefits. Medi-Cal is great about this. PPOs are horrible at this, okay? That's why it's great to be able to do it online. And so you need to make sure you have, eligibility date. What about if they're a brand new employee? Is there a waiting period for certain things like SRPs, right? Is there a maximum? And when is that? When does it renew? Is there a deductible for, individual or family? The different rules of 6 months versus twice a year. This is something that you really need to be aware of. So there's a 6-month rule. So let's say you're getting a prophy, okay? And so you have to wait 6 months till the next prophy is covered. But there's also the twice a year. The twice a year can be, at the beginning of the year, both, or maybe 6, 7, 9, 10 months apart. It can also be, I don't know why anybody would ever do this, but December 30th, you get a prophy. December 31st, you get another prophy. You can do that. It's just twice a year. Okay. And so all these things, including the percentages and all of that. Okay. Um, we do preventative dentistry, right? So dental hygiene, RDHAP. But I would highly recommend for you to also get the percentages of coverage for the other things, restorations, major, cosmetic, ortho. Usually cosmetic you don't see, but ortho. Why? Because you can refer. Let's say you have a brick and mortar, okay, and you get to the point where you're starting to see a lot of patients, okay? So let's say you're seeing, 20 patients a week, okay? So 20, 40, 60, 80 patients a month, that's a lot. And so where are they going for their ortho? Where are they going for, we're great about being able to see where people need implants and bridges and all that stuff. Just because we're RDHPs doesn't mean that we don't look at those things, right? And so maybe now you can start thinking about bringing in a specialist. Aha, now you're thinking, right? So you should know all those things, not right before you're going to do this, where you're going to start bringing in specialists, but do it from the beginning, okay? So claim forms, submitting paper or electronic. Okay. Everybody wants to do electronic. But then once people start noticing some of the things that go along with this, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. You telling me now that I need a practice management software, all these other things. And so you need to be prepared for this, right? just understand that there are different things, different methods. So the paper dental claim form, don't be, discouraged. It's paper. Yeah, so what? It's paper, right? And so it is very simple. Okay. It can be submitted by the office directly to the insurance company or sent to, with the patient. So I would, like I said at the beginning of the video, do it for them, print everything out, and then give it to them so they can send it. It's on them if they want to send it, whichever way, whichever method you go with. Super bills, I think it's an important thing for you to really understand. I love the name super bills. So, super bills is a statement that's sent home with the patient that includes all of the codes and information for the patient to fill out and file their own forms. Okay. So it also acts as a receipt or a ledger. So I would always print out a super bill. And the reason why I would do that is because in the super bill, I'm not just doing a perio maintenance. It will say perio maintenance, smoking cessation if they needed it. But the thing about smoking cessation, it's zero, depending on the insurance. Oral hygiene instructions, periodontal probe, and all these things, right? Canberra, whatever it is that you're putting on there, it can auto-populate it for you. And so I would always do the claims for my patients. So I wouldn't just give them a super bill. I would give them a super bill as a receipt. Why so much information? Because I want them to see what else I did. I wasn't just scraping your teeth. We were talking about stuff. We were, oral hygiene instructions, post-op instructions, and then that way it eliminated a lot of the I don't have all my teeth, so I should get a discount. You're going to get that a lot. Electronically submitted forms. Now, this is amazing. If you don't have this, you need to do this. Okay. Be organized in this sense, but you have to have the proper electronic transferability that is HIPAA protected. So you can't just I'm just going to email it to the insurance company. You can't just do certain things. There's certain ways, right? Through electronic claims. You can go directly to the insurance company through your computer, or you can have a practice management software that has the service to send the information. How do you send the information? It's not necessarily just the practice software management. It's the link to, you ready for this? You got to write this down. Okay. It's either going to be Fast Attach or Dental Exchange. That is the clearinghouse. Dental Exchange is a clearinghouse. A clearinghouse is essentially the translator of your practice management software to the insurance company. Okay? Let me give you an example. When you are applying to a university, let's say when all of you start applying for your master's and your PhDs, you're going to get the official transcripts from your undergrad, okay? And you're going to go to the clearinghouse to send your transcripts electronically, your official transcripts to that other university. They do it that way. That way there's no chance of, fraud. Okay. It's the same principle. The Dental Exchange Clearinghouse, okay, makes sure that everything is done correctly and it's HIPAA protected. Okay. And even better, the payments are received and paid twice as fast. With Medi-Cal, instead of getting paid once a month or 30 days from a claim on paper, you will get it in 7 days. Super fast. Oh, I love getting paid every week. Loved it. Okay. Now, you can't just use any paper claim, right? Any form. It has to be the standardized ADA, American Dental Association form. and they charge you for it. You can't duplicate it. You can't download it and then make a bunch of copies. You have to purchase it. So you purchase the forms from the ADA or a local dental supply company, okay? You can download it also from the carrier's website, but it's individually. That's why they charge you. So be certain to print or type the info neatly. If you're writing it by hand, make sure you write it neatly. You can also put it in your practice management software, and it just prints everything nice for you. So in a computerized office, forms can be generated and printed using your practice management software. So it is important to have the correct practice management software, not just to take x-rays, right? You need it for, to be able to do these things. So like I said, you could do it directly to the carrier. Okay. So you send it according to the carrier and make separate transmissions to each. So you can send one to Cigna, Delta Dental, Medi-Cal, you can. Okay. But probably better is through a clearinghouse. It just makes it and it centralizes it for you, and it's inexpensive. So it batches the files. I mean, think about it. If you have, let's say, 30 claims, you're going to do one individually. Okay. If you can batch everything, send it once, all 30 at once, that's even better. So batch files are sent to a clearinghouse, which scans the claims for errors and missing information and transmits the approved claims to the appropriate carrier. Sometimes you have to attach things. You have to attach x-rays and your, narrative and your probing and so on. And so these are things that the clearinghouse won't allow you. For example, for SRPs, it will force you to send certain things to Medi-Cal because it already knows, it's already programmed by Medi-Cal for you not to be able to send without certain things. And the same goes for any of the other insurance companies. So I think it's like $25 a month, something like that. The CDT codes, I suggest in case you don't know them, you need to know at least the preventative and the perio. So 4341 is, SRPs, also 4342, and so on, 4910, 1110, all these codes that you are probably a little bit familiar with, you need to make sure that you start memorizing them to the point where if you ever see me out at a convention or whatever, just talk to me in code. I saw this 4341 that I disagreed. I thought it was a 4910. See, only certain people can understand it. So this the current dental terminology, right now we're at CDT 2026. And so every year, every 2 years, they come up with a new version. Okay. Um, I'm sorry, it's every 2 years. Now, you should be familiar, in case you're not, okay, with some of the different categories. So perio, it's in the 4,000s. Preventative, it's in the 1,000s. Okay, so if you see a code, let's say, okay, uh, there's a code and that says, I don't know, the 5,000s, then you know that it has to do with partials and dentures and so on. Okay. There's codes for 8,000s, that's ortho and so on. And so obviously, most of the stuff that we do is preventative and perio. And then if you're with Medi-Cal, you can also bill for x-rays after you get paid for SRPs. I won't go through all these steps, but these are steps that I've identified, not just for RDHAPs, but also in general. I also teach a class where we cross-train the dental assistants on how to bill and so on, but you need to have a system, okay? There's a video that I go over business systems, and so you need to have creating claim form and billing system. You can't just wing it, and every time you do it differently. It needs to be a very consistent, systematic system. Okay. For many reasons, not just for HIPAA reasons, but also um, you want to get paid. You should get compensated for the work that you've been doing. Don't lose, you know, things. Also, if you ever plan on selling your practice, whether you're mobile or portable or at a brick and mortar, everything that you're doing, okay, creates a record that later on puts a value to your business. So if let's say you've been doing this for 5 years and you have 1,000 patients, um, it's a brick and mortar, let's just say, okay? And so you're doing great and everything, right? And so, but then you never go back after you get paid for the services and you don't, we call it posting, right? Then whoever's purchasing your practice is going to say, well, wait a minute, you're telling me you're making this much money, but then you never posted any of your payments. How do I know they really pay if you're telling me that your patients are wonderful and you get 90% approvals and 99% of the people pay, but you don't have anything and it shows that you only get paid for 10%? Now, do you see how it's like trying to sell a car and you run out of gas and it's dirty. So you have to have a system. This is an example of, and I know that it's small, ADA, American Dental Association. This is the claim form. And so each uh, line item is essentially the procedure that was done on a tooth. It's not per surface, it's per tooth or procedure, like for example, for a quadrant. Okay. And you have to make sure you write the, the date, the tooth number. If there were surfaces, for us, there wouldn't be, but it could also be a quadrant or a sextant. Okay, usually they pay for quadrants and not sextants for what we do. Um, the amount, it should always be one. This quantity, one quadrant, right? One sealant, and so on per line. And then the description. You have to write the description on this claim that the insurance company calls it, okay? Because they may call it different, let's say Delta Dental, than what Medi-Cal calls it. Just slightly different, but I would be very meticulous about this stuff. It's your money. You need to be meticulous. And then the amount. You add it up, you sign it, you want to make sure that you put all the relevant information, the provider, the um, the the patient, the insurance company, all of these things. Okay. Um, Something that needs to be mentioned is about NPI. If you haven't, um, if you haven't enrolled for your NPI, you need to enroll for your NPI. The National Provider ID is essentially the standardized federal, okay, 10-digit number that replaced all the other identifiers. So in the old days, Medi-Cal had their own provider ID number, Delta Dental had their own provider ID, and so on. And so now we only have one. Okay. Um, Also, it needs to be said about insurance fraud. Now, none of you are ever going to do insurance fraud because we're RDHAPs. We don't do those things. But, okay, it's insurance fraud, whether it's deliberate, unintentional. Okay, so you could be billing for things and getting paid for things that you're not supposed to be doing. Okay, you could be charging for things and getting paid that you're not supposed to be doing. That's still insurance fraud. These are examples. Billing the carrier for higher fees than the patient is charged. Okay. Now that you got away with it and nobody noticed and you don't realize that it's wrong because you know, you don't realize it, it's insurance fraud. Billing before completion of service. It's my cousin. I know that, she's going to show up and I'm going to clean her teeth. She always shows up and I bill it before I even clean her teeth. That's insurance fraud. Pre-dating or post-dating services on claim forms. We've all seen this, right? At the end of the year, people show up. Oh my God, my benefits are going to run out. And so they're there December 31st, but the work doesn't get completed till January 2nd. And they backdate it to December 31st. That's insurance fraud. Don't get in trouble for these silly things. Okay. Improperly reporting treatment, um, billing for services not rendered. So there is something to be said about these last two. I'm going to give you an example. Okay. This would happen under Medi-Cal. I would go to skilled nursing facility, see the patients that I was going to see, and I would bill for whatever, perio maintenance or SRP, no, for perio maintenance. Okay. And then I would get a denial and the code. That's why you need to make sure that you have the explanation of benefits, because it gives you the denial code and explanation. And so the denial code would say, and this would happen at least once every few months. The denial code would say that the patient didn't have any teeth because they had full dentures. Well, when I cleaned their teeth, they had teeth. Okay. So, how is it that they don't have any teeth and that they have dentures? It's because the dentist that saw them improperly reported the treatment, or they just, whether they did it on purpose or not, it doesn't matter. They billed, maybe they forgot to go pull the teeth, whatever the reason. But they, according to them, they billed for it and they got paid for dentures and extractions. So when I saw them, they still had their teeth. So that's the reason why for every procedure, I would, take before and after pictures and just keep it in my record. Okay. Because when I would get those type of denials, I would send it back to the insurance company. And what are you talking about? Here's the proof. Sometimes, like mainly Medi-Cal, they would send somebody to the facility to double check. And so I would end up getting paid, but guess who would get in trouble? Because that's insurance fraud. Okay. So very important. Another example would be there used to um, there used to be a this is a long time ago with Medi-Cal, you could only bill a bedside visit once a day for the whole visit. You couldn't bill it for every patient. Now you can, but back then you couldn't. So there were people that were going around billing it for every single patient. And so the insurance company would pay for it, but they weren't supposed to. So it was a mistake from the insurance company. Okay. But it's still considered insurance fraud because the provider, the RDHAP, should have said and called them, you guys need to stop paying me for these things. Okay. But they billed for them, so they needed to stop billing for it. So do you see how even though it's a simple mistake from both parties, it's still insurance fraud. So you need to be systematic, be detail oriented about all of this. I'm not going to go over all of these, but these are examples of terminology that you need to make sure that you understand. Okay. We should do a Jeopardy video over this. And here's just the last example of the ADA form that you all need to be familiar with as far as, insurances, private insurances, PPO insurances. Okay. This is pretty similar to the Medi-Cal claim form. The Medi-Cal claim form is the only one that is not an ADA form. And so that is going to be a completely different video because, we need to go over billing for Medi-Cal and how to fill out the claim/TAR claim form for Medi-Cal. So I really hope this was helpful. See, look, perfect timing. It's just under 60 minutes. I had a couple people ask me, yes, no, this side, this is my Dr. Regalia. And then this right here, this is my stationary bike so I could work out instead of going out there and sitting in traffic. Up there is one of my little diplomas and just some of the little items that some of the students, have sent me through the years. And so thank you very much and good luck.